Ladies and gentlemen, there is a voice speaking to you today, not from the television, not from social media, not even from a pulpit, but from deep within your heart. It is the voice of someone who longs to say three simple words: I love you. But this is no ordinary affection. This is not a love that fades with time, not a love that is here today and gone tomorrow. No, this is a love that is eternal. A love that fights for you, a love that waits for you, a love that paid a price for you. Let me show you 7 signs that someone desperately wants to tell you they love you, if only you would stop, listen, and receive it. Love pursues relentlessly. It is not passive. It is not casual. It doesn't sit on the sidelines waiting for an invitation. It takes the first step. It reaches out even when it's rejected. It continues to knock even when the door remains closed. This kind of love isn't born from human emotion. It flows from the very heart of God. From the beginning of time, He has been the great initiator, the one who seeks, the one who calls, the one who moves first. When Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, they hid. Shame gripped them. Fear overtook them. They ran from the very one who made them. But what did God do? He came walking in the garden, calling, "Where are you?" That question wasn't because God didn't know their location. It was an invitation. It was love pursuing fallen humanity. That was the first recorded act of grace, the first sign of relentless love chasing after the broken. Throughout history, this pattern repeats. Mankind runs, and God follows. Mankind rebels, and God redeems. Mankind forgets, and God remembers. Like a shepherd who leaves the 99 to find the one, the heart of love is always moving toward the lost. It doesn't matter how far you've gone. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. The pursuit of divine love does not stop. You can see it in your own life, can't you? That moment when you almost gave up, but something held you together. That night when you felt alone, but an unexplainable peace settled in your spirit. That time you made a mistake so big you thought it was over, but somehow grace found you again. These are not coincidences. They are not luck. They are signs, clear signs. That love is still after you. There are moments when you feel a tug at your heart and you can't explain it. Maybe during a quiet drive, maybe in a sermon, maybe in a song that breaks you down in tears. That's not just emotion. That's a pursuit. It's love reminding you, you are not forgotten. I still want you. I'm still here. Even when your prayers seem weak or your faith feels small, love doesn't give up on you. This love shows up in the people around you, the friend who calls when you needed it most, the mentor who refused to give up on you, the stranger who smiled and reminded you that you matter. These are all echoes of a greater love working through ordinary moments. They are glimpses of a divine pursuit reaching through the noise of everyday life to get your attention. There are those who believe they've gone too far, sinned too greatly, or wandered too long. But that's not how this love works. It's not based on how worthy you are. It's based on how willing God is. And He is always willing. Relentless love doesn't stop at the edge of your failure. It doesn't pause because of your doubt. It doesn't slow down because of your rebellion. In fact, it runs faster when you run farther. It's the kind of love that doesn't just knock once. It keeps knocking. It doesn't just whisper once. It keeps speaking. Even when your ears are closed, it finds another way in. Even when your heart is hardened, it waits for the right moment to soften you again. Sometimes through joy, sometimes through sorrow, sometimes through blessing, sometimes through loss, but always with one goal: to remind you that you are loved and wanted. People may walk out on you. People may forget you. People may measure your worth by your success, your image, or your reputation. But the love that pursues your soul looks deeper. It sees you not as you were, not as you are, but as you were created to be. It chases the you that you've forgotten. It sees value even in the ashes. It sees beauty even in the brokenness. And so if you've ever wondered why you keep feeling pulled back to something higher, something purer, something deeper, it's because you're being pursued. If you've ever felt a holy ache in your heart that nothing in this world could satisfy, it's because you were made for the one who is chasing you. Love isn't waiting for you to be perfect. It's simply waiting for you to stop running. Because love has never stopped pursuing you, not for a single moment. There are times in life when everything falls silent, yet your soul is screaming. You sit in the middle of chaos, surrounded by noise, yet feel completely alone. Storms rage, sometimes outside, sometimes inside, and you wonder if anyone hears your cry. It's in those very moments that love speaks the loudest, not with a shout, but with a whisper, not with drama, but with depth. True love speaks not only in the sunshine, but especially in the storm, and sometimes it's the storm itself that carries the message. We often expect love to speak in ways that are loud, unmistakable, undeniable, but the deepest voices don't always thunder. Sometimes love speaks through brokenness. Sometimes it speaks through the quiet. In fact, there are moments when life becomes so overwhelming that the only thing that keeps you grounded is the invisible assurance that somehow you are not alone. That whisper in the soul, that still small voice, is not imagination. It is the voice of love calling out through the storm. Consider the story of the prophet who stood on the mountain waiting to hear from God. There was a wind that tore through the rocks, but God was not in the wind. Then came an earthquake, but God was not in the earthquake. Then came fire, but God was not in the fire. And then finally there came a gentle whisper. And that whisper carried more power than the storm before it. That is the nature of love. It doesn't always need to shout. It doesn't need grand gestures. It speaks with quiet authority that cuts deeper than any noise. In your own life, how many times has the storm made you stop and think, not just about your circumstances, but about your soul? When things fall apart, when relationships crumble, when plans fail, what remains? Often it's in those moments you begin to sense something greater trying to get your attention, a longing, a pull, a presence. It isn't always comfortable. In fact, it can be painful, but pain often reveals what comfort hides, and love knows this. So love allows storms not to destroy you, but to direct you, not to punish you, but to pursue you. And when the storm quiets down and the world turns silent, there's often a moment where you sit alone with your thoughts. You ask questions you've never asked before. You wrestle with your purpose, your pain, your past. And even in that wrestle, love is present. It speaks in ways you didn't expect, through a verse that pops into your mind, a memory that softens your heart, a friend who reaches out at just the right time. These are not random. These are divine appointments. Messages from a love that refuses to be drowned out. Sometimes love speaks in a hospital room where the beeping machines remind you how fragile life really is. Sometimes it speaks in the middle of a breakup where you're forced to look at your own heart and ask, what have I been chasing? Sometimes it speaks after failure when everything you've built has fallen apart. And though the voice may not sound like thunder, it speaks just the same, gently, powerfully, repeatedly, always inviting, never forcing. It's easy to overlook this kind of love because we are conditioned to look for the grand, the loud, the dramatic. But this love doesn't need a stage. It doesn't demand the spotlight. It enters the quiet corners of your soul and speaks the truth that you've tried to forget. It reminds you that you are still loved, that you are still wanted, that you are still seen. Even silence is a language, and love speaks it fluently. When you're lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if your life has meaning, that ache you feel is not empty. It's a conversation When you watch the sunset and feel tears rise for reasons you can't explain, that's not weakness, it's awareness. Something eternal is trying to reach you, trying to speak to a part of you that no one else sees. That something is love. And when you pray, even when you don't have the right words, when all you can offer is a sigh or a groan or a single tear, love understands, love listens, love answers. Maybe not with the words you expect, but always with the comfort you need. You may not hear a voice, but you'll sense a peace. You may not see a sign, but you'll feel a shift. That's the way love works. Speaking through the storm, speaking through the silence, speaking in a language that the soul understands when the mind has no words. Love has a memory like no other. It doesn't forget the things others overlook. It holds on to the moments that seem small to everyone else, but monumental to you. While the world moves quickly, passing by without noticing the details of who you are, real love pays attention. It remembers the things that matter most, not because it has to, but because it chooses to. That's how deeply love cares, not just for your actions or achievements, but for your heart, your story, your soul. There's something powerful about being remembered. When someone recalls your name, your struggle, your joy, your tears, it reminds you that you matter, that you're not just another face in the crowd, that you're not invisible, that your life has weight. But what happens when people forget? When the calls stop coming, when the applause fades, when the world seems to move on without you? That's when love steps in. It does not forget what you've been through. It does not forget who you are. In Scripture, there are countless moments where love proves its memory. The thief on the cross cried out in desperation, "Remember me." And he was remembered, not because of a lifetime of good deeds, but because he dared to ask. The woman at the well, burdened by shame and isolation, was known before she even spoke. Every failed relationship, every disappointment, every tear, none of it was forgotten. Love remembered her story and met her there. This is not sentimental memory, it's divine remembrance, a memory that restores, a memory that redeems. Think about your own life. How many times have you felt forgotten, overlooked in a crowd, dismissed in a conversation, misunderstood in a moment of vulnerability? You may have even convinced yourself that no one really sees you, not fully, not honestly, not deeply. But love does. Love